The Aya Neo is a remarkable innovation in the handheld gaming console market, and a contender against the fabled Nintendo Switch. Spec-wise, it's a close matchup, and the overall consoles both deliver uniquely cool experiences. But the real question is, how well does it stack up against the Nintendo Switch? Let's take a look. First of all, let's take a look at the physicality of both consoles, because they both vary with vastly different designs and features. On one hand, you have the Switch, with its neon color variations and simple, curvy rectangle design. Then the Aya Neo goes for a more techie look, with a see-through case and exposed internals. If you're lucky, you can also get a limited edition version which has LED blue lights inside the clear case, which looks super cool. Though, if you want, you can just get a black version if a clear shell isn't your thing. Speaking controls, the Neo has a few extra buttons, which could be a good thing in the sense that it means we can have more control over the games we play. But it may also mean it'll be pretty fiddly to use, even compared to the Switch. Although that won't be a major issue, because the Aya Neo does have bigger controls than the Switch anyway, with the exception of the thumbsticks, because both the Neo and Switch use the same supplier for that specific purpose. And of course, it will be a fully fledged Windows device, so the lack of keyboard and mouse could make for a tedious experience. But fortunately, the device designers have made it so the mash of buttons located on the bottom of each control stick have specific Windows functions. For instance, one button will open Windows Task Manager, and the others follow suit with similarly useful functions. In terms of the screen, well, both console screens do happen to be the exact same size, meaning that you'll get more or less the same portability options as the Switch. It'll fit in most pockets just fine, while being just big enough so you can actually see what's going on in the game. The Switch will still do the versatility aspect better regardless though, because it is a proper console made with ease of use in mind. You know, so the Neo won't even have detachable Joy-Cons or the wide array of specialized accessories or even a kickstand. However, where the Neo might have the upper hand, aside from specs, is the screen's performance, because it's a newer console put simply. So this just means that the screen will look better when it comes to color accuracy, brightness, and refresh rate. Resolution may be a different matter though, because both screens aren't really big enough to have a noticeable impact if the resolution were anywhere above 720p. Moving over to the most important part, the specs. Now, it should really be noted straight away that the Aya Neo is undoubtedly more powerful than the Switch. It's newer, but it's also over twice the price. The Neo is equipped with some surprisingly powerful hardware, considering the tiny form factor. The GPU isn't massively important in a device this small, since the graphics will be severely limited by both screen size and resolution. But just so you know, it has a Radeon Vega 6, which is enough. Its CPU, on the other hand, is an impressive 6-core AMD Ryzen 5 4500U, which is about 40% better than the Switch's custom NVIDIA CPU. It doesn't sound like a massive difference to the Switch, but it will definitely perform better than the Switch for sure. What's more is the RAM and storage, because while the Switch has just 4GB of RAM and 32GB of SSD space, the Neo has 16GB of RAM and a 512GB SSD, so you can really start to see where the Neo has a huge advantage over the Switch. The Neo will basically just be much faster and better at multitasking than the Switch, all thanks to the expansive SSD space and 4 times the RAM. Admittedly, multitasking isn't necessary on the Switch like it will be on the Neo, since the Switch's operating system only lets you use one application at a time regardless. Windows devices do allow for more than one application open at once, so that extra RAM and SSD space will be essential. Now let's look at the screens. As I established, the screen on the Neo is better because of superior color accuracy and max brightness, amongst other reasons. But that's not to say the Switch's screen is bad by any means, because it really isn't. It's crisp and beautiful. Games like Zelda Breath of the Wild look fantastic on the Switch's small screen. However, the Switch came out in 2017 and the Neo's release date is 2021. That's a 4-year difference. So the screen is bound to be better on the Neo, unsurprisingly. The Switch rocks a 6.2-inch LCD screen, which has a max resolution of 720p. The screen on the Neo, well, for starters, the Neo screen is nearly an inch larger. It's also an IPS panel, rather than LCD, like the Switch, which happens to be better, purely because IPS is more color accurate. IPS is unfortunately more of a battery-consuming form of panel. But honestly, I wouldn't fault that too much, since the battery life of the Neo is 6 hours anyway, so I doubt that'll be an issue. The experience each console gives you is very important when it comes to it, because if a device delivers a poor overall experience, then there's really no point having it. Fortunately for the Switch, we already know what that delivers, and it's great. The Switch has a great user interface, and is just really fun to use thanks to its versatile features. The fact that you can detach the Joy-Cons to form a proper controller, then take the game to a big screen via a dock, is still so cool 4 years later. The Switch is just such a friendly console to use. The Aya Neo, as we know, is using Windows to run, which definitely comes with its fair few pros and cons. The good thing about having a Windows operating system is that it opens a whole bunch of options for users. It's essentially a fully fledged pocket PC, so you'll be able to do things like use Steam, refund games, download mods, get cheaper games in the first place, get a hell of a lot more games, and if you're okay with it, you could just use emulators to play console-exclusive games. The only issue with Windows on a pocket device is that it could get really fiddly to navigate, since traditionally you would have a keyboard and mouse, as well as a large monitor. Of course, as I said, there are specific navigation buttons to mitigate that issue, but would that be enough for an OS as expansive as Windows? Probably not. And that's where the Switch comes above. The Switch OS is actually made for a small console, so it's very easy and intuitive to use. Sure, you can do more stuff on Windows, but is it really a convenient solution? I don't know. So which console is better? Well, it's really difficult to say because they offer such different pros and cons. On the one hand, you got the Switch, which offers a much more intuitive but simple device that focuses more on light gaming and a vanilla experience. Then you got the more expansive and chunky Aya Neo, which is more powerful and lets you do way more because of the addition of the Windows OS. In raw power and heavy gaming abilities, the Aya Neo is better by a long shot because of the improved hardware and more games offered by Windows. But if you want a cheaper, easygoing console that'll offer less, but a much easier experience, then the Switch is for you. Anyways, what did you think? Let me know in the comments below, and please remember to like the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe.